Like I get what you get. Yeah, kind of why. Yeah. I understand what you're saying. It was a crit. I'm like, it's more. Just that's that mix. Yeah. That's what that. This little thing. Yeah. The way they show on the map. Doing great. They don't show this. That's just. Yeah. Thank you. It's what gets me. Just look at all these little maps. And you look at this one. It's really big. Oh, there's the next corridor. Right. Yeah. You can look at that. It's like wire. We'll see what's this one. Yeah. So that cross sections natural computers. Hey. Really? Oh, okay. This true. Oh, I don't know. Just guessing. Oh, really? Exactly. I have a learning from this. It's going to be a long series. And there are. There's no part of that. Right. Not like this. If they can, right? Reasons. So they have. Oh,
we'll call the meeting of the Plan Commission and Town Board to order. Today is September 6th, Time is 6:30. Statement of public notice hereby provided our written notice and the agenda of the public meeting unstated below. There is an opportunity for public comments as noted on the agenda upon recognition by the presiding officer. I will note that our public comment time is for issues that are not on the agenda itself. Roll call. Let's see, we don't have anyone online at the moment. So we got. Yeah, we have but he's not one of the commission members, so not in our role, quote unquote. But yes, highly. Hopefully you can hear us.
Yes, I can. Good evening.
All right, great. Okay. All right, we'll start with Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I will take a motion to adopt the agenda.
I make a motion to adopt the agenda.
Second.
Any discussion? All right, our agenda stands. Approval of prior meeting minutes.
I will make a motion to approve the meeting minutes from the where are we in September? August Planning Commission meeting.
I'll second that as well.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Good enough. Public comments. Is there anyone here to speak to an issue that is not on the agenda? Nope. All right.
Hey, can I interject
Yes.
one thing real quick?
You can.
Dropped it in an email, but on the June 8th town board meeting, there was a request from the town board for the plan commission to review all ordinance that had not been updated in the last 24 months. I was wondering if we can get that added at some point.
Yes.
It was in the town board meeting minutes from June 8th.
Yep.
Thanks.
Sure. It's been discussed at, I think, the July meeting, but yeah, we'll bring it back here and figure out the details. Okay. Let's start with our public hearing. We are going to have a public hearing for a conditional use permit request. This is for Barn Church Incorporated, located at 792 140th Avenue in New Richmond, off of Bass Lake, on lot 2 of a new CSM. So I will now open the public hearing. Are there any comments on this request? I'll ask again, are there any comments on this request? Any comments on this request? Then I will close the public hearing section and we'll move on to discussing the conditional use permit. Is there anyone here to speak to that application? Okay, you can come up to the table. Thank you.
Hello, I'm William Aragoni and I'm the president of Barn Church Inc. And then this is Alex Rome with Leading Edge Construction. So we're here to discuss any questions you might have.
All right. Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Aragoni or the builder?
I guess I just have one question, kind of as a normal process. Do we normally get any kind of, a lot of times for other things, we get,
Staff report?
yeah,
Um,
because I don't remember seeing that.
There is one in the.
I thought there was,
Well,
yeah, it's in the drive.
so on the drive, I see the application, I see the notice to adjacent landowners, and I see the development plans.
It's Aragoni Barn Church CUP staff report dash September 2023.
Why am I not seeing that?
That was there when I downloaded from the drive last week.
All right, well,
Okay,
I'm not seeing it. That's why I was confused.
I can.
In
send
the
you a-
September 6th folder?
In the, well, I'm not sure exactly where it came from originally because I refiled these. But yes, in the September 6th folder, it should have been.
Apparently I'm
You
losing
can
my
see it?
mind.
Yeah,
Okay,
yep, I've got it third from the bottom.
Because I was curious if they had recommendations on any conditions to put on it.
yeah, they do. And in fact, I will, if I was going to read this towards the end, but I can actually read it. I will move right on to the staff recommendation and we can come back there again if we want to at some point. So all of our conditional use requests and a lot of other things go through the the town engineering firm that also works with us with planning. So they go through in quite a lot of detail, like compare things against our ordinances and so forth. So the summary, John, staff recommends approval of the conditional use permit application subject to the following restrictions. All outstanding items in the staff reports, and I don't recall any off the top of my head, are addressed by the applicant prior to the issuance. All necessary permits must be secured, including those related to future signage. All Town of St. Joseph zoning ordinance requirements must be met. All extraterritorial objecting and or approving agency requirements are met, including the St. Joseph Fire Department. Once the permit's issued, it should include the following conditions. Implementation of site plan and architectural elements must adhere to what was approved as part of the permit application and Plan Commission Town Board decisions. All operations must adhere to what was approved, and the conditional use permit must be renewed in September 2025. And I don't remember. There's very little else. There's a couple of things that I'll go ahead and ask you. The applicant should confirm no new lighting is proposed on the site. If there's new lighting proposed, the location, dimension, and photometric data must be provided to the town. So is there going to be new lighting beyond the building?
Nothing beyond building lighting, as far as any parking lot lighting or lit road signs or anything like that. It'd be egress lighting and then down lighting on the actual building structures and no new site lighting.
Okay. Let's see, the applicant should confirm no new landscaping is proposed on the site as no landscape plan was submitted. At its discretion, the Plan Commission could recommend the implementation of some landscape plantings. And I haven't been out to the site to look at it, so I'm not sure what you're planning on doing in terms of landscaping, if any.
Yeah, the existing site is just a alfalfa hayfield. We don't have any firm landscaping plans.
Okay.
As of current, no major changes besides potential new tree plantings in certain areas on the site, but no major landscaping type besides on the site plan submitted a sign at the drive entrance, and then some general landscaping around the new building would be kind of the extent of that, in addition to some trees.
Yep. And then did you get a copy of the staff report? You
Yes,
did,
we
right?
Yeah.
So John, the other things that were comments from the engineers were the existing depression areas being used as an infiltration basin, and the capacity of the in-place soil should be investigated for proper design. These include the grading on sheet 300, and indicate the overflow location and elevation on C300, and follow the appropriate DNR technical standard for design of stormwater. But that's all standard.
Yep.
And I don't recall really anything else from staff. Any other comments? A couple of other comments that basically say they looked at 30 different things and they all looked okay.
Has it been resolved on their engineering comment meant for the project location map? That they felt for accuracy,
Yeah.
right up, right ahead, right ahead of your existing depression area you were talking about, stormwater?
I did look into that on the title sheet of the site drawings that were submitted. The arrow points to the wrong location. It's like a block west of where the actual location is.
So you're gonna correct that for
Yep.
the final?
Yeah, for the final,
Before we
correct.
get it
Yeah.
on Thursday?
Since this isn't in a commercial zone and it's just a conditional use, do we want to put something around? And I don't, maybe it's in here, but
Mhm.
from a part of the permit around parking versus capacity.
That was covered a little bit, also in the comments. Said, while it's not located within a business district, staff still reviewed the proposed use against the town's parking requirements for uses within a business district. Churches require 1 space per 3 seats. Based on the submitted information, the building is designed for maximum capacity of 60 adults and 30 children, 90 seats. This would technically require 30 parking stalls, which is the number proposed with this development.
Should we put that specifically in the conditions? Because my only fear is, you know, 15 years from now, you grow, you decide to expand. If we don't put that in the conditional use permit, you could expand the church without expanding the parking lot.
I'm not sure that they could.
Wouldn't that just be within the building? Well, again, if we just say you can build the church,
Yeah,
do they have to come back for an updated conditional use if they do a building expansion to double the size of the church?
I'm not sure if they would need to, but we could certainly conditionalize them.
Well, and that's why I'm just thinking, we may want to put that in the condition. Just to prevent the situation where, you know, 30
People are
cars are parked along
on the road.
the road. Again, that doesn't seem like it'd be a cumbersome condition.
no,
It's
I
just
would-
saying,
We'd have no objection. to
yeah,
that.
just saying that the
Right.
condition is what you've asked
Yeah.
for, and if you want to expand,
Mhm.
it would require a revision to the conditional use, because I don't think they'd be required if we don't specifically put that as a condition. It's kind of a technicality, but
Yep.
that's what always gets you.
Yes.
That was the only thing I had seen.
Okay. Lori?
I'd like to have a little conversation on chapter 81. The staff report states that no chapter 81 design regulations apply to this application, therefore no action is required, and I question that. With the reason being is no structured designs are a part of this application. And additionally, it's an alfalfa field out in the country. And I'm just questioning if 81 would apply to this, and if it does, we should have it in there. Yes, in fact, that should be taken into consideration.
Doesn't 81 only apply to commercial?
Mhm.
That applies to intensive development, which we define. Yeah. It includes institutional development, it says.
Which I would say a church could maybe fall under institutional.
Could. We never define what institutional means.
I think the building will be lovely. I think it'll probably fit into the surroundings. I'm just looking from a town paperwork perspective. That we have this conversation before we keep going any further.
Mhm.
I just find that particular statement by staff. It kind of cuts us off at the knees if we ever needed it.
Yeah, the downside is I'm not exactly sure what my gut is to just,
Strike it.
just to make as part of the condition that it's compliant with chapter 81. I don't know what the implications of that are, and that concerns me just in terms of if that would impact what they're planning.
And it, yeah, just as much as it concerns me as it says that it does not
Yeah.
apply
Yep.
without any review.
Yeah, I mean, in a perfect world, I'd go back to, is it Stantec did the review and say, can you relook at that?
Lee is on the line,
Ooh,
if you want to ask him.
that's a
And
good
it-
point.
And Chris is on the line too, who has maybe some thoughts on that same chapter.
Lee, have you been following what we're asking about in terms of chapter 81 design regulations?
I am, and you know, Amanda obviously wasn't able to be part of the meeting tonight, and so I'm sitting in for her. I did not do that part of the review, so we certainly could go back to Amanda and have her give a more detailed explanation of her thought on that particular issue.
Yeah, that might be useful information for the town board for next week.
And I think it might be useful just to the plan commission going forward too.
Yep.
So
Well,
yeah.
since we have since Amanda's on board and we have the resources, I really think we should run it by her.
All right.
Anton, this is Chris.
Chris.
Hey, sorry, I joined right as you opened up the public hearing, just so you know when I came on.
Okay.
Sorry about being a minute late there. I would agree if Stan Tech could take a look at it. The one other thing I saw in regards to parking, I looked up our parking for churches, and it's one space per 5, not 3.
Oh.
So maybe we could have Amanda look at that also and correct that. Do a double take on our those parking section and our zoning. It's 1 to 5, not 1 to 3 in there.
I wonder where she got the 1 to 3.
I'm not sure. But maybe we could just have her double check, make sure we're okay.
Yeah.
You know, is it?
Well, 1 to 5 is fewer spaces than 1 to 3, so
I understand. Yep.
Yeah, so it's to their benefit,
but yes, that's
but nonetheless, we
interesting.
should be on board.
I will relay that point as well.
Thanks, Lee.
While you've got the floor, Chris, do you have any other questions for the applicants or any comments?
I just wanted to, no, I like the design and everything, and I think the layout and seeing where the parking is going behind the building off to the side, it all makes sense and the setbacks are there. I do see the one, I noticed the sign, and so they'll probably need a permit for that. And just want to ask them in regards to, do they have any idea yet of what type of sign they're going to be put up and how it will be lit? Any idea on that? That would be a question.
Yeah.
As is mine.
Yeah, so it would be like a stone you'd get from Rivard. And what we'd like to do is have metal, like a metal cut out with Barn Church in it, and it'd be stood off of the stone. And we weren't intending on lighting it, and just having it out about where we've got it on the site plan.
Okay.
Okay, great. Thank you. I think that falls in line with that area in the neighborhood, and appreciate you considering not putting lighting on it, right? For the neighbors and everyone involved And I do think that our signage ordinance does have in those areas a monument type sign. So it definitely falls in line of what we're looking for in our sign ordinance too. So thanks. I don't want to comment on the design or the look of it. That's not really my intent. My intent is is it a monument versus something on a pole, and is it lit? So that's why I'm asking the questions.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yes.
Lee, along that same line, if you have Amanda update this staff report before the Thursday meeting under chapter 156 signs and change her verbiage, ask her to change the verbiage that it says it is likely that the sign shown on the site plan will require a permit. So it isn't likely, it is the sign shown on the page will require, the site plan will require a play. So she can strike is likely.
Got it.
All right, are there further comments, questions?
I'm gonna go back to the parking thing, because I think
All right.
I can simplify the thing. So given that we already have a requirement for parking versus size, that would still apply if they increase the size of the church. So I don't think we have to have an extra condition on that. At least that's my thinking,
Okay.
because we already have in our ordinance parking per
Mhm.
capacity. So if they increase capacity, that would by definition require them to accommodate with parking. So I don't think we have to put extra on the permit or on the conditions. We may still want to restrict it in case we want to review if they do increase the capacity, but I don't think it's related to parking anymore.
Okay. That makes sense. You comfortable with that too, Lori? And Justin?
Yeah, I'm still reading on this, how it's worded that says one space. That's been taken care of.
All right.
I'm trying to figure out, this is where it says that it technically requires 30 parking stalls. Is that a part of our? Is that calculation coming directly out of our?
I don't remember for sure where parking wound up. Do you remember?
I don't want to be in
Or-
conflict with our zoning ordinance is all for the verbiage.
So 17047. Okay,
Cruising through, right?
so it is in zoning.
So she can, Amanda could just quote our direct ordinance on that. For the parking. You can put in more if you want.
Yeah, well, for the church world, it's really 1 to 3. So that's just, if you don't have 1 to 3, you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot. People, it's about the average.
Within the table, it's 1 to 5. One space for each 5 seats.
So we should consider
Updating that.
revising our ordinance, bring that up the next time that we revise our zoning ordinance.
So do we have to give them, when we make the motion, are we gonna have to give them a variance to that, our own ordinance for that?
No, because they've got enough.
Okay,
Now, you're meeting 1 to 3, just to be clear, right?
Yes.
yep, we're good then.
Any further discussion, or are we getting close to making a motion?
I can take a shot at a motion. I'm just gonna ask a couple of questions first.
Sure.
At this point, I'm not really hearing any conditions beyond meeting the recommendations in the staff report. Is that consistent with what other people are thinking?
I think so. The
Okay.
only thing that was touched on a little is, do we want to ask them to do any landscaping as a buffer?
And I guess, what are the, I'm not thinking that we are.
Yeah, I don't think that we are.
Let me know
Was just
if,
kind of
if,
mentioned.
I'll make the motion if we think we should put that in.
So where would you put the buffer? On the roadside or on the other?
Well, like between the lots would be,
Oh,
Where
and
I
those
would think.
the new lots that are gonna have residential use on them.
right.
Is
I
that
don't-
a-
I
is
don't
that a
know that-
discussion you've already had?
Yeah, we've discussed a little bit adding trees on at least the west side of the parking area. Maybe not like a full blocking buffer, but some tree plantings there
Delineation,
to-
but with
yeah,
vegetation.
delineation to add a little bit, a little bit of obstruction there. So it's not just a full view parking lot.
I'm not sure if we'd be able, I can't think of a specific enough condition on that to include it in the,
I mean, I think we could, but I don't feel like we need to.
okay.
But personally, I've been in the position of, I bought a lot. There was a house, there weren't trees, I planted
planted it.
trees,
Yeah,
I waited
I do
a
the
few
same
years and I
thing.
was happy.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if it was going in where there was a whole bunch of other stuff already,
Yeah.
that maybe be a little bit different, but
Yeah, these are new lots.
yeah, it's not like you're gonna surprise anybody.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. I will take a shot at making a motion.
Thank you, John.
I will make a motion to recommend to the board to conditionally approve the conditional use permit for the for Barn Church Incorporated at 792 140th Avenue in New Richmond. The condition on meeting all of the recommendations in the staff report. And including additional revisions we've requested from Stantec on the chapter 81 review for design regulations. And correct or changing the chapter 156 signs to say that the sign shown will require a permit. And updating the, well, do we want to update the parking or leave it as is? Because I think we want to, because the Stantec report has 3 instead of 5.
Well, I don't think that there's anything on the conditional use permit that would refer to parking.
Ah, okay, yeah, but got it. Okay,
I think we're okay.
then that's that's my motion.
Okay. Did you get that? Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Right. Do we have further discussion? All right, let's take a vote on recommending to the town board that they approve the conditional use permit with the recommendations from Stantec and the other stuff that you've got. All in favor?
Aye.
Chris?
Aye.
Aye.
Oh, aye.
All right. We'll see you at the town board meeting then.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
And
Next.
just for the record, I can finally see the staff report on the Google Drive now.
Only took a week to update. All right. Yes. Can you turn your microphone on, please? Thanks.
On the last page, and I'm going through chapter on the conditional
Sorry,
use,
which last page
on the last page on this staff report,
on the staff part? Okay.
says the conditional use permit must be renewed at September 2025 Plan Commission and Board of Supervisor meetings. Do you know what that's about? I don't remember approving conditional use permits ever for renewals. Once, do you know where that's being pulled from?
Not off the top of my head. It would be in 170, I guess.
I think it's 170.
Well, I think it's 170 also. I'm just looking to find.
Good.
I guess all I would say is this is a case where we need to call that out first, chapter 170, and then my very next question would be, how does the Plan Commission or the town of St. Joseph intend to keep track of conditional use permits?
Mhm.
And are they going to have a renewal? Are we gonna have every month renewal dates coming up, or is it a given month that
Well,
we go through and do this? So
I think our standard conditional use permits don't have
expiration
an
on it.
expiration.
It's tied to the property or the
Some-
property owner.
Some of them do. Some of them require renewals, in particular, like the towers do. That might be the only one that's listed specifically.
Oh, so you think that maybe the towers is the only one that we have to have the renewals on
That's the only one that
currently?
is required there. So I guess it comes down to when the town board issues the conditional use permit, if they choose to put a time on it. Because I think we've done that in the past with like the contractor storage yards, where they were set to come up for renewal after, I think it was 2 years was that first contract storage yard, so that we could decide if there were additional conditions that we wanted to put on at that time. And that's the only one that I can think of off the top of my head.
Okay,
So if we chose to, issue a conditional use permit with a time frame for renewal, I think that we could do that. But I don't think we're required to do that. Does that make sense?
it does. I don't know that it makes sense on where it says permit,
Yeah.
condition, because if we accept it, the staff report as it is, this would obligate us to have this renewal piece in there.
So I found something in 170-8.
Okay.
I'll turn my mic on. 170-89A. The last sentence of it, I can read out loud if you'd like.
Sure.
Oh, I didn't think you'd take me up on that. It says all conditional use permits shall specify described. So specifically describe the listed use and specify the period of time for which the permit is effective.
There you go. Which number was that? Just 170?
That was 170-89A.
Oh, these are hard to find. Okay.
Looking at 170-97, it says that after conditional use permit has been approved, such permit shall become null and void after 12 months from the date of approval, unless the use is commenced, construction is underway, or the current owner possesses a valid building permit before that time. I'm assuming that's why they're saying it has to be renewed by September of that's 2025.
And it
isn't
sounds like if they don't start the work within 12 months, it
Right.
becomes void.
Yeah.
This is also mentioned in B, that it doesn't run with the land. And that, again, it says all conditional use permits shall specifically describe the listed use and shall state the period of time. And when it must come up for review and renewal. So that's interesting.
So I guess that's why it's in the staff report is that we need to, we don't have a 2-year requirement, but we need to give some amount of time. We are not allowed to issue indefinite ones. Apparently, under our ordinance at least. Whether that's an issue with state statute or whether that's just the way that,
I don't know how we resolve this question or if we need to resolve it.
yeah, I don't think that we need to resolve it.
Okay. All right.
I can do a little research prior to the board meeting if the board has questions about
Yeah.
this next week.
It does sound like if the board wanted to, they could say instead of 2025, they could say, 2033 or something, give it
Yeah,
10
and,
years or
and
whatever.
this was one of the changes to 170 that was recommended by Stantec, so it may be bringing us in line with Wisconsin requirements. So like I say, I'll do a little research on that
Okay. There we go.
because our original zoning ordinance didn't have that
Any.
language in it.
Okay.
So. All right. Moving on, we have a concept review from minor CSM for Steve Vader at 360 144th Avenue. What would you like us to know?
Good evening.
Good evening.
So this is the concept plan for Steve Vader, on his property. The county shows this as 2 parcels on their, tax roll. One of the parcels is 6 acres and then the house, parcel is 10 or 16 acres, something like that.
Yeah, I think 19 is supposed, so
45.7. Right. So the intent would be to kind of treat it as all one big parcel and divide it as I've shown on this concept. The caveat on this thing is that the 6-acre parcel.
Yep.
Is zoned as preservation residential.
Okay.
When everything else around it is ag residential. So we're confused by that zoning to start with. And they're trying to figure out the reason that it was zoned that way when most of it is ag field. I mean, literally 5 acres out of the 6 is farmed. So in doing this concept layout, I kind of ignored the zoning and therefore the comments that you see in the staff report. About crossing zonings. And I could easily adjust the line between lot and 2 so that we don't have 2 lots with 2 different zonings on it. I guess ideally, we'd like to not have 2 different zonings.
But that would be a different request.
That would be a different request. And so we were basically been trying to understand, and with our first conversation with Lee and Amanda, as to how this parcel got picked out and zoned as preservation residential to start with. When everything else is around it, and when 5 acres out of the 6 acres don't seem to have the qualities required to be zone preservation residential.
Yeah, it's a bit odd because there's like this big curve of preservation residential. And then there's this one little spot in sort of the middle of that U shape.
yeah. The 6 acres, yeah, it just doesn't really seem to meet the criteria, like Doug said, it's. Yeah.
It's not
5
like
acres.
original forest or original prairie or.
No, not at all. No, it's box elders and corn this year, 5 acres of it, yeah.
There is a tiny little wetland you can kind of see the symbol, it kind of blends in there, but like straddles the line between the two parcels. So I mean, I'm not saying none of it would qualify as preservation residential, or at least the characteristics that are supposed to be protected with preservation residential. But the vast majority of it is ag field.
Yeah. Yeah, we might have to talk to Stan Tech on
I
that.
think I think they did some of their due diligence on that. I'm speaking for Lee here, I guess, but, and Amanda, but I mean, I think they were trying to answer our questions too. So I don't know if you have anything.
We
more to
did
add
do-
there, Lee.
Yeah, we did try to do some research on that, and we discussed it with the town chair and tried to figure out how that all came to be the way it did. And I'll be honest, I do not recall that we came to a clear conclusion on that. Amanda probably has a better recollection on that zoning part of it, but you know, from my recollection, it wasn't totally cut and dried as to how that was decided. I think the comp plan showed some of that, and then the zoning map was trying to emulate it to some extent, and we would probably need to get Amanda in on that discussion and or Teresa as far as where we got with that research.
Yeah, looking at I think what you've got in your staff report. My guess is that the small piece was something like 51% in the natural preservation, whatever order. And the larger piece was something like 25%. And so we wound up saying, well, like half of this is like in this area, but that line's also drawn a little bit arbitrarily.
Well,
based on
and
the
guys,
survey.
that was kind of one of the questions. It was, from me, was how accurate are the lines, and do the actual physical characteristics of the property have to have some jurisdiction over what gets zoned what?
Well, the zoning is what it is right now.
Yeah, correct.
So I think that's, I would suspect that the town would look favorably on rezoning that into ag-res.
I've got a couple questions before I go any further.
Yep.
We're looking at this map, right?
Yep.
Okay, tell me which lot that we're discussing the pres res on.
It's-
What numbers?
It's mostly lots 1 and 2, Lori.
All right.
There's
And
kind of a
current-
dash line going north and south through lot 2. Just kind of easterly of where I'm showing the house.
So you're saying it's to the north and to the right of that line? Or
Yes, so
is
Is
red-
that- is it
red-
that-
that's the 6-acre property line, that dash line. So from that line west is the parcel that's zoned preservation residential.
Is it in that V shape or that U shape on the east?
No,
property?
that is outside of the preservation residential. So it's,
Well, and I guess the question I do have is preservation residential impacts options for doing a subdivide? Beyond that, it really doesn't have any particular impact.
Well, I'm just trying, and I'm trying to determine where we're talking about this preservation reserve.
Yeah, and I think it's.
No, I'm not
just
gonna think
this
of
here.
it.
so it's this line right here, Lori.
Okay.
That's
pretty-
the,
that's
yep,
fine.
that's the 6-acre parcel. So it's from there to here is what's the preservation residential.
Right, so now that I'm clear on that point. My next question for you is. In 2016, was that being farmed as ag land?
That 6-acre parcel?
Yes.
Yes.
When they went through and did our natural resource inventory, which I'm gonna kind of just wing it here and say about 2017, 16, someplace in there. Any parcel that had characteristics of interest were mapped out and assigned a number. So it should be very clear to determine whether or not there was specific properties or characteristics on this parcel that made it into preservation residential. And that I would think might be a resource.
The odd part about that though is that everything to the east, including where his home is not.
Yeah, so
And that's what
that
it
old
said.
parcel wasn't even all in the same zone.
Right.
So-
I'm sorry.
The parcel that you have today crossed zones,
Here's the natural area.
which all by itself is
Yeah.
a little
This is
odd.
the parcel that wound up being preservation residential.
Right.
This one did not.
So this dark.
But it's
green
only a
area,
fraction of
this
the
dark
parcel.
green
No, he's
right
talking
there,
about-
right here.
No, the dark green
I don't
here is
know.
of
As
of
far as-
natural interest.
Yeah, I'm not
So,
sure.
yeah, so right,
So It
then-
crosses the parcel that's not preservation residential. And then there's like this tiny little corner of the other parcel that's marked as potentially like being part of a, whatever the dark green is.
natural area,
Yeah,
which is,
Which is like-
which on this shape right here.
which is a.
Yeah, when I look at the
Tiny
natural
Yeah, it
natural
would look kinda
resource area,
Like right there. maybe.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking it is too, right there,
No, not through those two halves, because that would be like through here. It's like.
straight here.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
Doug
so it's-
Doug says it's sort of delineal,
Yeah.
so that's what it said, that should be pretty easy to clear up.
Yeah, I think so.
so yeah, that's exactly, when you look at that resource map, it shows exactly, just a little corner and then the other line that comes through there is going through the middle and I don't know why.
Yeah, it's like, there was a. My gut feeling is they like took these lines, stretched them out by some number of feet, wound up drawing a line like this around. it,
Okay,
Which wound up making this something like 51% in that line,
gotcha.
and this big one like 25%. So that one wound up having the value.
And Anton,
We didn't notice that at the time when we did the zoning, or we wouldn't think that we probably did it, like. Looked at that and said, "Well,
Well, but
here, if you look at this one, Anton, it follows that dark green area.
yes,
what I'm still hearing though, is the existing parcel is in two different zones.
no,
Mm-mm.
So the entire 6 acre parcel,
yes,
even though there's like,
even though there's like,
it's not 51%.
no, but. If you look at, if you go from this to the next map, which is like the one that we based, the one that,
Okay.
the one that we wound up using for doing the decisions.
What's that?
If you take this map and then you put a buffer
A
zone
buffer on it?
around each of these.
So that
Draw
entire
lines
6
like
acre
that.
parcel
So
is
that's
zoned
entire
as
6.
preservation.
Yeah,
Because it's the buffer.
because the line runs kind of right here through there. And my guess is that we wound up with like just over half of that, and that they algorithmically probably marked each parcel based on what percentage.
Well, and what's odd is given that it's only a 6 acre parcel, you couldn't do anything with preservation residential with it anyway.
And as he says, like, that's basically a clump of box elders in
Yeah.
one corner, and the rest of it is
Yeah.
cornfield, so.
And since, okay, so right now, this helps me out. So right now, the existing 6 acre is preservation residential. The second parcel that they're combining is ag
Ag res.
residential.
Yep.
And the reason it gets tricky is because
That could.
that 6
We
acre is
wind up with
actually
a
being,
lot.
when you combine the two,
Mhm.
you're combining a pres residential with an ag residential.
Well, and it's not even so much that, though that's an issue, but it's that doesn't follow the new proposed lot line.
Right.
So you wind up with one lot that has two zones, which.
Well, but if you combine the two parcels, which you kind of step one to make this work, is
Right.
you gotta combine the two parcels.
Yeah.
So you have to reconcile the preservation residential when you combine the two parcels. Because you
don't,
can't have a single parcel in
You-
two different
you
zones.
can't.
Really?
Yeah, we do in one or two places in the Holton area where we wound up with like the front half of a parcel that is zoned commercial and the back end is zoned residential, I think,
Okay,
for like one or two of the businesses along Holton. I think that we may have fixed that when we did the new zoning map, but they were split at the,
yeah,
Before
because that seems
under county
problematic
zoning.
all by itself. So it
Right.
seems to me that
that's
you-
what we don't want.
Yeah, it seems to me that you'd want to reconcile the preservation residential in the combining of the lots. And then the subdivide just happens.
Yeah.
Okay. I just was trying to figure out procedurally.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know.
Yeah,
What
it-
matters?
Procedure, I don't think it matters what order you do things in. But if we don't want to wind up with having at least transiently a lot with split
Yeah, it
zoning,
seems like procedurally it makes the most sense to fix it on the
to
combined.
rezone first,
Otherwise,
to rezone it at the time of combining it or
Yeah.
whatever. Yeah,
Yeah,
but
once
it's,
we have
but it's a
the
separate
lot.
process is the tricky bit. Right, because the rezoning goes through a different.
yep. Yeah, I'm
different
not
process.
sure how that works, to be honest, from with this
Yeah.
twist, so.
Well, that's why it's good that this is the concept review stage.
Yeah,
It's a concept, correct?
Okay, so we know zoning is something that we should get figured out, and I think everybody on the plan commission, all right, I'm speaking for people that haven't weighed in here yet, but I think everyone on the plan commission would probably agree that rezoning that out of preservation residential would not be a problem.
yeah, because I actually drove by and looked at that, and I'm like,
But we're also not the people that make the decisions
Yeah.
on the zoning, so.
it didn't even occur to me that that field could be preservation residential.
Yeah. All right.
Anymore
Okay, so,
discussion on that? Okay, then I guess to go forward with the concept. So just so we haven't done any soil testing out here at all.
okay,
There is a wetland delineation that was done when that proposed subdivision was happening on all the, with Steve's property and the Frawley property. So I do have that. As I say, I've outlined a couple of them. There's one that's on lot 2 there.
Yep.
There's another one that's on lot 3 and one on lot 4. Tiny little things.
Yep.
And then there's a bigger one that's on the east line of lot 3, right south of that driveway. So that's it for wetlands on this property, and like I say, they're small, we can work around them easy enough. I guess the other thing I should mention is right now, 144th is gravel road. It just dead ends. Steve would be proposing to build a cul-de-sac at the end of that. To make a proper turnaround.
On the lot line between what's listed as Frawley, where it's going through on that existing parcel line.
It'd be the right here, Lori. And
That's where he wants that cul-de-sac.
that's where we'd put it, like on lots 2, 3.
Oh, so there's no way to get to this other property. ever.
No, we would just propose it as a dead end road.
You know how much we like dead end roads around here.
I know, I agree.
Well, it's better with cul-de-sac.
I'm not saying you couldn't get a road through there, but there's a couple wetlands you'd have to figure out how to get around or between to do it.
And if you keep going straight, you run into a pond.
And then you can run into a pond. Some of my thought is, what do you really serve by extending it that way?
Yep.
There is actually access off of 145th to that larger parcel, the former Frolic parcel, so they did have a 66-foot easement there.
Oh, back to Moan there?
Yeah, back on Mullins easement,
Yeah.
there's a 66 foot easement.
But there also is one on 144th
Right, so they're
Yeah.
two.
Real
to the
clear.
west.
Yeah. That's real clear.
Can I make a comment about that access easement to the Moan property?
Yes.
So I think we mentioned in there, obviously, that that easement needs to be maintained for that access. The thing that makes me think a little bit, though, is that that existing easement is 66 feet wide. Which, you know, seems to suggest that at some point in the past, somebody thought that that could maybe become a town road if they granted a 66-foot easement.
Yeah. Yes.
Obviously, with this scenario and this concept, that would never be able to be a town road.
Right.
So in a perfect world, I would prefer to see like a 20-foot easement that covers the driveway. But it's just very important that never becomes a town road. And the 66-foot dimension on that easement just sort of lends itself to that discussion, you know, at some time in the future. But obviously you take that land really away from those lots and then you're not going to be in compliance anymore.
How would Steve Moan get to their property if we took away the easement?
Well, we can't take away the easement.
No, you can't take it away.
The point is that if that became a town road, then those lots two,
And
well, actually
three.
lots 1, 2, and 3 probably all unless you went up to the north a little bit, all drop below 3 acres.
Yeah.
So is that used as an existing driveway or
Yep.
field road or something right now?
No, Moan has a home back there. I probably got you can kind of see it on the aerial.
Yep. Yep. Okay.
So I think that parcel's been there for 25, 30 years, probably 30 years.
Yep, the tax statement says there's a house on it.
There you go, shows.
And then I guess the only other thing that we should address is the, in the report about improvements on 144th Street, the staff report is suggesting that there should be some blacktop. Yes. I think Steve is not necessarily opposed to doing some of that, but we're also kind of concerned about if he does his portion of it, what happens to the rest of it? How does that happen? And I think also from my perspective, and probably Lee, you'll agree with this, is what's out there right now acceptable to put blacktop down? And so at what point, I mean, I think it's unfair to have Steve bear the burden on that whole deal. So I think that we need to have some discussion on that.
I can make some comments on that if the commission would like.
Sure. Thank you.
So I would say, as far as your first question about the suitability of what's out there is, I would say not necessarily.
Okay.
Without doing, you know, some further research into that. What we have recommended at this particular time is pavement from the westerly lot line of lot 1. Because that's the part that's really being developed at this time. Obviously on your concept plan, you're showing a future situation, a future application, you know, depending on when that occurs, it will depend on what it is. Within, you know, the 5-year time frame between, you know, CSMs. I think, you know, in some discussions with the chair, you know, the town would realize that, you know, all the way from, you know, the county road, there would probably be ultimately some participation in building that all the way to the county road, some participation by the town in the future. So I think that would probably be more likely to be addressed when that second part of this development occurs.
So since we got the staff report here looking about the road improvement part of it. What's come forth from Steve is then if he's gonna have that kind of outlay of money up front, that he might then, instead of doing this as a minor subdivision, do it all at once.
What is the major?
Do all of it as a major.
So when I first bought this, I think it's been 6 years ago, I spoke to the town chairman at that point in time. And was given the impression that, and you know, this may have been a different guideline at that point in time, but I was given the impression that if I did this as a minor subdevelopment, that I would not be responsible for the paving of the road, that we were okay. And so I was going into this up until we received the staff report last week with the idea that I knew I had to do the cul-de-sac, however, I did not anticipate the cost of the blacktop in doing this. So the reason I decided to go forward with this as a minor subdevelopment was all based on that understanding. But if I'm going to be from the hook, sorry for lack of a better word, for doing some paving, it might be more logical to, you know, just do all the lots right now at this point. You know, and I don't know what that looks like, and I'm not sure who that conversation I need to have is with, if, you know, the township would split the difference, I mean, or you know, what that would look like.
Yeah.
Well, and this has come up before is, you know,
This comes up
if
every
you're
time.
developing at the end of a road. And yet there's a gap between, there's an existing road that's not up to standards
Right.
connecting, how does that, cause
Right.
again, we've kind of talked, it's not necessarily fair to say you've gotta improve the entire road all the way to County Road I. Although I believe the way it's currently
I think that's what
worded,
our ordinance
that's
actually.
what the ordinance says you'd have to do. Which creates a interesting problem. And
But even
this
in
is
the
another case
scenario
of that.
where, so there are 6 existing lots on that road.
Yep.
Right now. So I would. If I did the whole thing, I would be adding 5 lots.
Right. Yeah, our ordinance does not make much sense from my point of view.
Yeah, I was trying to say that nicely.
Yeah.
Well,
But it is a challenge because the ordinance is the ordinance.
I would say
And
that
we have to reckon.
what you guys are talking about, I think, is in the part of where it talks about private roads becoming public and then improved in its entirety. And what's different about this one is it is already a public road.
Yeah.
I believe it's also in there though, that if it is a public road that is substandard. And a development occurs, the township can require it to become paved. And some of that or all of that cost can be put on the developer. I guess what I'm looking at is traffic impact to the existing. And not winding up with a half paved road. I don't really think that makes a whole lot of sense in my opinion. I would be afraid that wouldn't hold up, you know, long term.
Yeah, it would be a weird. it
Well,
would be
anybody
hard to
that-
plow.
Well,
would
especially
build down
since
there
you're
would be
starting
like-
with paved, then go to gravel and then go to paved. I mean, if you're going from
Yeah.
paved to gravel, I could,
Right.
yeah, that.
I think anybody that would build down there would ask why the road is only half paved.
And then we'd be going back, we've already got people saying, well, why isn't the town paving my road?
Right, right.
And I'm thinking that this is something that's gonna end up being taken up by the Public Works Committee.
Sure. I think my other comment on that would be, you know, I don't know how you could word this, but doing the minor subdivision to not have to do the road, but then turning around and doing another minor subdivision to not have to do the road.
Doesn't make sense because
It doesn't, yeah, that doesn't, you know, make a whole lot of sense to me either.
And even in that case, you still have from County Road I to future lot 8 that
Right, you'd
is
still have,
not part of the properties that are being subdivided. So we still kind of have to reconcile.
So Ted, so our ordinance does cover this a little bit differently. So for private roads, it says the creation of the lot means that bringing the road into compliance is entirely at the expense of the subdivider.
Mhm.
But if it is a substandard public road, it says applicants may be required to share in the cost of the upgrade.
So did you keep any notes from August of 2018, August and September of 2018 on when you met with Public Works on this topic?
I think he said it was with the town chair.
Yes, it was. And Public Works, it was on August 7th. Or August 1st, no, it was, and then the town board looked like. Yeah, must have been, Public Works must have been 8/1 and town board was 8/7 and 9/13. I might have the dates a little off, I might be off a day or two there, but. So this is already. There's already been some discussion on this. On this road before.
I guess I'm not aware of it.
Did you ever go before the Public Works in 2018?
That I recall.
Not that you recall? Okay.
Oh,
It's been someone else on a similar property. Okay, but either, so I'm gonna just drop that topic then. So either way, we need to probably.
Yeah, I would say.
On this particular topic on the road piece, I think we need to have further discussions that are gonna be beyond tonight, maybe. And would we know that any contribution from the town is coming out of the Public Works budget and our roads, and we'd have to have a discussion where that would go to, and
Yeah, and I think you need an answer to what's gonna be
I do
required of the
too.
road before you.
I
move
really
forward
do.
with this,
oh,
obviously.
yeah.
Obviously,
I mean,
so,
it's a significant
Expense.
Yeah.
cost to
Yeah.
pave
It-
a road. I mean, a 4 mile road really.
I'll go to cost to do a 300-foot driveway. I can't
Right.
imagine.
Right, exactly, yeah, puts a big damper
Yeah.
on my plans, you know,
Yeah,
especially from what my understanding was from the conversation several years ago. And I think it was just a conversation with the town chair, I guess, phone call, right, where I was told that. You know, a minor subdevelopment did not require an upgrade to it. And that's why I took this approach, that was the whole logic behind taking the approach of doing a minor sub.
so that, we wanna get that straightened out for sure.
Yeah.
And we've got to do the other parts of the res section, so you've got a couple of little projects here.
Yeah, we definitely need to have that conversation with the town and figure out the nuts and bolts and of who's responsible for what. I think so Steve can, obviously, if it gets too expensive, he can't afford to do it, but
Yeah, that's what I
so we
said,
need to
you
know that
need
kind
to
of stuff.
Yeah,
Definitely.
If it takes time, then it takes time, but
yeah.
What else do we have?
now let me just clarify. So if he went forward with the subdivision with the 4 lots. With that from, and the Stantec report, staff report implies that is. From the western edge of lot 1 to the cul-de-sac, that has to be a paved road up to town standards, right? He doesn't have an option of doing that gravel? Do we give anybody the option of doing gravel roads anymore?
I'd have to talk to Public Works, I guess.
Say, yeah.
But if we went forward as is right now. Based on staff recommendation. My only responsibility for paving would be from the west edge of lot
Lot
one
one.
to the cul-de-sac, correct?
Correct.
So we could move forward with that.
Yeah.
option.
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Which. There's nothing that says they can't do that.
Yep.
I'm not saying whether that, I agree with that approach, but
And that would sort of be to some extent the quote unquote cost sharing if the town paid for paving it up to that point.
in budgeting for it, of
Which would
course,
make
for
it-
a major project.
Yep. It'd make it cheaper for both the town and for you.
Lee, would that be a major, or, would that be like a would we budget as a recon for that? Little
Yeah,
chunk?
we would probably want to go out and take a look at what we have out there first and make that decision.
Yeah,
I would say you would probably want to take the default position that that would be a full recon at this point. And if we do the research and find out that, we can do something, somewhat less, then that's how it would shake out.
so if Steve was looking to go forward with this project, there would be an impact to the 2024 budget, therefore we need to have some sort of conversation between now and year end when we approve the budget for that recon project.
Well, again, it depends if it goes from County Road V all the way, to the cul-de-sac, or if it just starts at the west edge of lot 1. Again, this is something obviously the board is going to talk about as far as, the
Right.
approach.
Yeah,
But
okay. But
Per the
either way-
recommendation, with what he's proposing right now, our recommendation would be that he paves from the west edge of lot 1 to the east. If somebody was going to do a project all the way from County Road V to the end of the cul-de-sac, there would have to be some cost sharing between County Road V and lot 1
Right,
would have to be figured out.
yep. So, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
You answered my question, so potentially it could be a part of the budget for yet this year.
Depending on the timing of the project, yes.
Okay,
And to be clear, if that road were to be paved, that it would potentially the base would have to be brought up to standards first.
that's why,
Correct.
that's why my question was, would we
Yeah.
be preliminary, just looking at it as probable recon,
Mhm.
meaning that the base would be, have to be
Right.
test holes and stuff will probably be. That's a whole nother conversation, but Public Works will figure it out.
Yeah. Okay, so let's move on from the road, which as usual is the worst problem, I think.
Sounds like we kind of done it.
Otherwise, I think everything looks
Oh, we've got a cul-de-sac.
pretty reasonable to me. Yeah, there's the question of would we want him to stretch that road all the way through in the hopes that someday that becomes access to the Raleigh property. But I think there's
Yeah, that-
access from other places to there.
Well, and it seems like, to your point, that then goes straight into a pond I don't know that we would ever propose filling that in and
No,
putting a road over it, so I don't. I guess there's the Farwell, Frawley property that it could reach to, but so basically a cul-de-sac could go further down, but
Yeah.
That's gonna be it does create an interesting future potential.
that whole area is going to be a nightmare for someone to develop.
Yeah.
Which is maybe good from the town's point of view.
But who knows, maybe the Frawley piece is a moot point. and
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
do
it-
believe
it-
there's
There won't be a conversation.
Yeah.
I do believe there's a new owner out there. I think
It-
it's been sold.
Yeah, about 142 acres of it. Probably's had that 66 foot wide easement platted off of 144. I mean, I think that was supposed to be, as well as the part to the east, which Lee pointed out was not going to work. There were 2 points of access platted to that piece of property. So there is access to it off of 144.
And there's always the possibility of putting in a 143rd or even a 142nd or something in the future if that were to be developed.
Well, I'm also looking at, yeah, again, we're solving a problem we don't have yet today.
Right.
but
Well,
I'm looking at the
That's
gap.
part of our job, right? Is
Yeah, I'm looking at,
make sure that there is a potential solution.
yeah, I'm looking at the
Actually, I
gap
think, isn't
between,
there a stub on 133rd, 138th? Whoever the one there is to the south?
138th.
well, I'm looking at, you've got the Frawley property lot 2, which
Yeah.
is to the west of
33rd Street
future
goes
lot
out
8.
north. I don't know how far it goes.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
stubs to it, I believe.
I think that stubs into Nina's and.
Oh, is that, oh.
Yeah, I don't think it's owned by the Frowley.
Oh,
I'm
gotcha.
probably saying that incorrectly.
Oh,
not gonna
okay.
happen.
Well, and I'm also just looking at, you got the Frawley property lot 2, and then there's a gap. I don't know what that gap is for. And then you have future lot 8.
Yeah.
Could you
Yeah,
have a
so-
road,
That's the 66 foot easement.
I say, yeah, you could have a road come south off of that to get
Correct.
To
get
get
there,
it
so
across, yeah.
I guess there's options that can solve that.
Yep.
That this doesn't prevent, so,
And they don't seem like impossible or impractical options.
Yeah. yep,
So I think we're okay with the
Yeah.
cul-de-sac where it is. So yeah, I think in terms of the concept, I think we need to figure out the zoning. And you'll need to work with Public Works and or the town board, probably both, to figure out what the solution is for the roads. And I think we really need as a plan commission to like beat up the town board a little bit with, we need to solve this road problem in general.
Yeah.
Because every year there's at least one subdivision that triggers this, and we're sort of trying to do one-off fixes.
yeah,
to
it'd be nice for us if we knew what we're supposed to tell them.
Yeah,
Lee, where does 144th fall in the, help me out here, is it in Whistler or is it in the pavement management plan?
it's no pavement.
Well, it is in Whistler, and it is shown in our pavement management plan. You know, we do keep track of and rate the gravel roads in the town. So I mean, it's part of the town's road system. And so, you know,
So it's already, we already have documentation how long that parcel is and a whole bunch of stuff on that already.
what we don't have is what the consistency of the road base is. That is not something that we have.
So that would just be a matter of doing test holes, which are, 3-4 of them are fairly inexpensive, so. And would we even need that many?
You know, we'd want to go out there and take a look at what's going on, see what the characteristics of the road are. Are there any places that could apparently look, we'd want to target those in areas where we think there might be less good soils. It might be very consistent out there. Who knows? We'd have to take a look.
But that would be best practice to go do something along that line. Okay, thank you.
So if you were looking to develop this, would this be like a spring next year timeframe you're looking at?
Yeah.
Okay.
Great.
Yeah, we have a lot of work to do to get to that point.
Yep.
Soil
just wanna make
testing,
sure
obviously,
that
we got
the-
the zoning thing to take care of. We'd have to, do some topography out here, I guess. What additional work from our end would probably have to coincide with what town does as
Mhm.
well. We have to design the cul-de-sac, so, yeah.
Yep. I just want to make sure
This is
that
next year for sure.
I just want to make sure the town board has sufficient sense of urgency for things like the road testing Since at some point that's going to become impractical or too expensive when it freezes, and freezing is not that far away.
Thank you.
Sure.
Well, that's where I was going too. I didn't want to go through all this and then
Right.
next July it rolls around and you're like, you know.
We're still talking about the road.
Well, I think that's a good sign. I think like we haven't seen anything else on here that to talk about, so. So I think it's a good concept from my point of view.
Yeah, yeah.
I think we've identified those two stumbling blocks that we need to get
Right.
pushed out of the way. Any other comments? All right. Thanks. We don't do like a formal approval of a concept plan, but
Okay.
this
Yeah.
looks
right.
good.
Okay.
I
Great,
assume we
thank
go
you.
to the town next week.
Yep.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Next CSM. Larry Weber, 1473 Anderson Scout Camp Trail. Oh, can you push the bar there? Thanks.
I'm Larry Weber, it's my wife Ann. We're here for a minor subdivision on our property. Oh, I'm sorry. Anyways, we're looking to split our property into 3 buildable lots we want to build a new house for ourselves and then one for each of our daughters on the 3 that are going to be buildable. And then the 4th lot is a existing house that's going to be split off of the property. And then we're going to maintain the majority of the property with our lot. And that's what we're looking for here. We have just some questions on some of the staff report. As far as
So should we just wait till you guys talk about it and then ask your question?
Why don't you go ahead and
Okay, so
talk
starting
first?
out,
If you can point, yeah,
I think the
that's
first,
very directional, so.
so on page 5, the driveway where it's mentioned that you can't have a shared driveway on that, that's just a mistake. That should have been labeled proposed drive, not proposed shared drive. So we'll have that corrected on the CSM. And then the next, that preservation residential standards, that we were wondering if you could just kind of explain to us what that's saying.
Mm-hmm. All right, so for what the staff comments basically saying is some parts of the town that have more natural value, quote unquote, as determined by about 10 years ago, we had a biologist go through the town and look for areas that had like wetlands or any old growth or undisturbed areas or places that looked like they would be part of a wildlife corridor, allowing wildlife to move through the town. Those areas have been zoned as preservation residential, meaning that we're trying to preserve more of the open space there. So we have some developers that will come in and subdivide and then basically, okay, we're just going to, cut out, all of the trees in the middle where we're going to put the house and just clear the area around that and, have something that looks like a golf course long. And in the preservation residential area, they can still do that, but not to the whole lot.
Okay.
And basically there's a requirement that of the lot, a certain percentage of the space is set aside for to be quote unquote preserved in a natural state. So you can't take a 3-acre lot that's in preservation residential and like clear off the whole lot and, build a house or a commercial building if you're in a commercial area or whatever. You need to keep some part of it as open space, and that needs to be protected with an easement so that future people that buy that space don't say, well, bought this and I'm gonna put, you know, my 3 garages for my kids' RVs or whatever, and my self-storage for my family on all of this extra space that I've got outside my house. So basically what they're saying here is that in the preservation residential, as part of that process, we generally require some kind of analysis that basically says these are the areas that we're going to set aside, and this is the reason why we selected those areas.
Okay. So I did have a conversation with Jay and then with Amanda as well, that potentially, so there's 2 on where they show the wetland, the DNR map. There's 2 spots where there's wetlands that are too small to delineate.
Okay.
And then there's I can't remember the acronym, NCRS wet spot.
Okay.
And then excavated pond. So that's kind of in that, can't remember which page that's on. Page 7. So that there's the red dot is the NCRS wet spot, and then the cattails, that's actually on the property line, so kind of split on the property line. And then there's an excavated pond, which is in that square, and then there's another wetland too small to delineate. So in talking with Amanda, she thought if we kind of did that area, so the wetland area, and then potentially a buffer along the roadway. You know, do we have to do 40% of what? Is it the existing open space?
No, it's 40% of the total space being subdivided.
Okay, so I'm just wondering when we bought this as an existing horse farm, so there's, you know, the area that was where the buildings, the house, the pasture areas, and then the north end was a cornfield. So if we're looking at, without the right of way, 36.21 acres, can we subtract out kind of that existing building house area there in order to make that determination, or do we just have to include where the buildings are as well?
I think you'd have to include that. Let me look quickly and see what we said on that. Chris might know off the top of her head.
I'm looking real quick too.
Okay, 40% of the gross land area of the development site shall be permanently preserved open space protected by a conservation easement or deed restrictions unless the subdivider owner can show that this requirement does not meet provisions of the comprehensive plan. Of that 40%, at least 50% of the open space is to be in a contiguous tract unless the subdivider owner can show this requirement does not meet provisions of the comprehensive plan and may be contiguous with adjacent tracts. So it's basically 40% of the total area that's being subdivided.
Okay, so even the area that is
And that can
already
be spread out,
developed.
that can be in an outlot or it can be spread out among the lots.
Okay, so if we did.
But it's preferred to keep at least 50% of it should be contiguous.
Okay, so if we kind of went along the kind of the edge, so it would be along the roadway, if we can get to that number, I think it's like 14 acres that we have to meet.
Let's see.
This is Chris. I'll just pipe in. When I was out just a while ago, it does look as if, because you do have that natural space that, I mean, you've got that open space, but it does make sense if part of that 40%, you know, the wooded area, if maybe that might be a good option for you. And if you still can place the homes in a spot that is buildable too, that might be one thing to look at. Is it sounds like that's what you were just describing.
Right, so, yeah.
To the road might be, and that would all be contiguous, right? You'd be running
Right.
south.
And so we could do along the road and then
Yep.
the lot 2 and 3 with the shared driveway, most of that access area could also be preserved, and then we'd kind of do a buffer around the rest and incorporate where those wetlands are on the map down along that side as well. I think it's gonna get,
Yep.
I mean, 14 acres is gonna get a lot, you know, it's gonna be tricky to get to, but I think we can possibly do it.
Thank
Well,
you.
And I'm curious, unless we've changed it, is it? I was thinking it wasn't a requirement to set aside. Or did we change that when we did the new zoning?
It
Cause,
is-
oh, go ahead, Chris.
It is a requirement. It's part of the ordinance. It's a shall. Yeah. Because it's in preservation residential, 168, when you've got that, when it's in the preservation residential district, that's where this comes into play. Is the 40% open space as much as you can get contiguous. And that's exactly what we want to be doing now, is having these conversations with the owner, the developer on this. So that's why that's why I was talking about that space, the contiguous space, and then also, you know, the wet, those delineated areas too.
Yeah, I'm just looking at, if you look at the lot that they're starting with, so is that whole, or is this another one where we're combining two parcels again, right?
Yes.
20 and.
Are both parcels currently preservation residential? Because most of lot 3 is agriculture. I mean,
Yeah.
looks like tilled land right now. Which I don't know that we want to preserve that
Well,
from a preservation residential perspective. So I'm a little confused at again, how we're reconciling.
And it's all preservation residential right now.
So both.
Everything east of the Anderson Scout Camp Road until you get to the highway, just about. There's a few parcels along the highway that aren't.
And so, Chris, are you thinking like a buffer? Almost, again, if you're looking at 14 acres, you're almost like. That lot 1's an existing lot, right? Is that part of the subdivide?
Which lot?
On this map, you've got a lot 1.
That,
It's
Mr. Main.
lot 2 wraps around it.
Yeah, lot 1 is an existing.
That's an existing lot.
A separate property.
Yeah.
owner. Yeah.
So it's not part of the.
Yep. So Chris, you're kind of thinking, almost taking a band that it would be about the depth of lot 1 going kind of across along the road. Is that kind of what you're thinking?
If we did that, we wouldn't be able to build on lot 4.
Well, and that's the thing I'm just kind of wondering about.
So we
is-
were I don't know if you can see it. I mean, we kind of tried to do this highlighted area and roughly measured, and we were able to get to about 11 acres by doing, what did you do off the road? 100?
yeah, we were thinking 100 or 150 along the road.
So you come along here, and then where our shared driveway is, we would put that in there and then buffer up to here. And then buffer around to here where those wetlands.
On the
are there.
north end and the east side, we can increase the amount. Because there's more space there that won't
Yep.
ever be built on anyways. So,
And that's a good candidate.
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, and I wanted to go back to something you said, though. You said if we did that, you wouldn't be able to build on lot 4.
Right. So if we came all the way down, straight down, it kind of leaves a limited opportunity for where you would situate a house or any
And a
potential
septic.
future septic house or any future.
Sure. So you think kind of it limits the buildable space
Mhm.
too much.
Yeah, and we're hoping to, I mean, that house we're proposing that house would be within the wooded area, but we just, you know, whatever the driveway, septic and house site would be, you know, and the rest would be preserved,
Mhm.
that the trees that are there.
I have a question too, is it, we're allowed to have a driveway through that space? or an access.
From my understanding of it, I would think so, because you can do it in one of two ways. You can do it as actually creating separate outlots, so that that preserved land would be kind of not part of any of the existing lots,
Mhm.
or it can be an easement on the existing lots. And I don't know if the driveway runs into that contiguous, if it says, well, there's a driveway going through it, so it's not contiguous. I think that's a valid argument against it, but
Yeah,
you may still end up with the 50%, even if that driveway went through it. So you'd end up with two parcels, as long as one section was 50% of, is it 50% of the 40%?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think you'd probably still be okay, but you would need to do
Mhm.
the
So
math.
it's whether or not you stop at the driveway and then start again?
and
Yeah.
it could potentially still be contiguous depending on what you do with the driveway
Right.
and how you position. Right, it could be going around the developed area. So your driveway comes in, your house is here, and you have preserved space here going around there. That technically meets the definition. of
Yeah, although
contiguous,
it's
not really-
just given the
doesn't-
layout of
I would
this.
feel that what actually meets the spirit more would be to just have the driveway go through it.
Well, and what you're looking at is you don't want to preserve the back, the part of the lots that are away from the road per se,
Right.
because that's not what we really want to
The,
preserve. You really,
the part that we prefer to preserve is the same part you would prefer to
Yeah.
preserve,
right,
which is
absolutely.
where are the nice trees?
And that kind of puts your house behind that.
Yeah.
So that would be between your house
Yeah.
and the road. So that's where the driveway,
Yeah.
it would make sense to preserve that and have the driveway go through to the,
Yeah.
to the back.
Yeah.
I don't,
And the ordinance gives us some flexibility on this because it does say that, it has to be 50%, it has to be 40%,
Mhm.
40% has to be 50%, has to be contiguous.
Yep.
And all of that says, unless it's, conflicting with the comprehensive plan.
Mhm.
And my reading of that is conflicting with the intent of the comprehensive plan.
Mhm.
And if what the comprehensive plan is like driving you to do as the developer here or the subdivider is to, well, I can't make it work for the forested area, so I'm going to.
so I'm gonna preserve the
preserve
farmland.
the
Yeah,
field, then I think that it would be pretty easy for us to say, well, no, the intent of the comprehensive plan is that we preserve the good places. And if we need a driveway going through there, then
yeah, to be able to preserve that,
it's more important to preserve the space than to have the letter of this has to be contiguous.
yeah. And I still think you might be okay, but again, you'd have to kind of sketch it out.
If you have a 3-acre lot and a 4-acre lot and a 10-acre lot, for example, does
Mhm.
each lot have to have a
No.
40% or can it be all?
No, it's
all
up
done?
the
It's-
entire, what you're starting
Okay.
with.
As long as we can get driveways through, we'd prefer a buffer along the road also.
Yeah.
I don't wanna be restricted not having a driveway. So,
Right.
So once we actually figure it out, if we're struggling to meet the actual 40%, is there any room? for-
There is,
Okay,
but the bar on that would probably be pretty high.
okay. So if we're close, I mean, we want to try to
Yeah,
hit it, but,
If you get to, if you get to 35%, I don't
Mhm.
know that anyone on
Okay,
the plan
okay.
commission is going to strenuously object. If it's like 25%, then there's
Yeah.
probably gonna be more pushback.
okay. So what we need to do, so the actual CSM would have that
Would have it.
on there.
Right, and
And
again, you have a few different alternatives on that,
Mhm.
but what most of the developers have been doing is generally putting a conservation easement, which basically says this area of the lot can never be developed,
Okay,
so.
Yeah, and I think that's gonna fit this better than trying to set aside
right,
Right,
outlots. Setting aside that in outlots would be,
yeah,
Okay.
the other alternative is to have that space like outside of a lot, and that works better if like you're doing a big area and
Right.
you can just sort of say, for instance, we've got the central area that is
Okay.
that is being preserved and we're putting the lots around there.
Gotcha.
But your
Okay.
area is, A, it's smaller,
Right.
and B, just from the areas that it makes sense to preserve, that doesn't really work,
Okay.
I think.
As far as the wetlands, can we just overlay the DNR information on there?
I think that's what the staff report suggested, yeah.
All right, and then let's see if there's anything else. I think the only other thing was the labeling of the lots we need to correct. So we'll correct the labeling of that shared driveway on lot 4, that's an error, and then correct the lot numbering.
Yep.
I think that was it.
So lot 4 is a regular driveway, lot 2 and lot 3 share a driveway. And then lot 5 is an existing driveway. With the existing home that's there.
Yeah. you want that marked on your plan.
Well, and I guess the one other question I do have is the way this is being subdivided. So you've got lot 3 that has like 2 fingers that come down to the road.
Mhm.
Is there any reason, to me, it would make more sense to, move lot 4 to butt up against lot 2 or over against lot 5? Because that's gonna create an interesting problem in the future if you wanna subdivide lot 3. It's not like you're gonna be able to put a lot in the gap between 2 and 4.
I mean, I think the thought was that it preserved future options if we at some point wanted. So our house will be, on lot 3, but then at some point, if we wanted to sell off the buildings and develop, a site that could be developed for a home.
Yep. If
They
you
would
wanted to
have
split it
access to
like
the
half north
road.
and half south.
It's like
Yeah,
when
Both
we're
those lots would have access.
walking around with canes and don't want to deal with barns and stuff anymore. So that was the thought. And then our daughters will be on lot 2 and 4. So it also kind of,
We wanted them closer to our driveway and cause we have grandkids and they go back and forth and we'd rather have the lots closer than further. So. It just keeps an option open for another access.
which I guess was the other question, if we had a future access there with that conservation easement, if that was going to be an issue.
Or
Or
just-
can we mark that on as a future access through there on the CSM?
You could.
Okay.
Yeah, and even kind of in that, if you did have lot 2 and 4
Adjacent.
adjacent to each other, you could still have an easement along there to provide access to lot 3 in the future.
What you need to watch out for there is that we have a requirement that when you subdivide, all lots have frontage on a town road,
And you have to have separation between.
not just access.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we were trying to keep the driveways down because they're so long that that's why we wanted the shared driveway. And it's with our dog.
Right.
So we're trying to keep the amount of driveways down
Mhm.
and not disturb, the woods. So.
Yep.
That's why we went with the shared one and then where they are.
Yeah, because the other alternative would be to have an easement in place, right? You could,
Mhm.
like stretch lot 4 all the way up to touch lot 2 and then have an easement across there for the
Yeah.
driveway in there. But I think in the future, when you subdivide it, I think my recollection is that we've run into this and we basically had the town board give an exception that said, all right, it's got an easement. We'll slap you on the wrist for, we'll slap ourselves on the wrist for screwing this up and like not providing access to this lot.
Got it. So
in the
that
past.
if I'm reading this right, the space between lot 2 and 4 is 100 feet.
It's 228.
Well-
Lot 2 has 128 foot and lot 3 has 100 foot.
Yep, so it's 100.
Right,
between
100,
right, it's 100 feet
Yeah.
going back to lot 3.
Yeah.
So that makes sense. So you're never gonna put a lot there. That's really there to give access to potential lots if you subdivided 3. Okay, that makes sense.
And that is a lot of space. I mean, it's more than we would use for like a town road,
Yeah,
We only need 66.
right?
I just wanted to make sure, because it's like, it's not like you're gonna subdivide and put a lot between 2 and 4, but you
Right.
could put an access. So that makes more sense. Okay.
Is it wide enough for the driveways? Is it wide enough for the driveway spacing then? I mean, they have to be
That's what my.
Oh,
question
100
was.
apart.
If you're
On
meeting-
100 apart.
Yeah,
No,
on lot 5, the driveway is on the south end. So, and where I positioned on lot 4, there's enough room to keep that 200 foot if you ever did a future driveway.
although if you tried to do a driveway back to lot 3, but between 2 and 4, you're not gonna have your 200 feet between lot 2 and.
If the shared driveway went away, I don't know why that would ever go away.
I guess but you're trying to keep options open. I
Yeah.
think that would
And if
not
that,
keep
if
that
that did
option
go
open.
away, we'd have the other option.
Yeah.
So it's nothing probably we're ever gonna do, but it's just something that made sense for access.
Yeah.
You could move, yeah, lot 4, you could move, you could close the shared driveway on lot 4 and get access from in between there or something if you needed to.
Well, the
Yeah.
shared is on lot 2.
Ah, yeah.
Show me the shared.
I was gonna say.
Well,
that's what I think.
I'm not seeing it, but.
It's on the,
maybe
it's on the
it's
border,
over here.
it's on the border between 2 and 3
Yeah,
Yeah.
on the southwest corner.
Right, I guess my question is between lot 4, you have a driveway here that.
Right.
That's shared.
And you
right?
got
And then
driveway
you have a
here.
driveway here.
You can't
Is there
put a
enough
drive-
Space?
No,
Okay, so there's not.
No.
So how does that,
you
is
can't.
that something that we have to address now, or is it?
I don't think so.
No, I just said you may not be keeping as many options open as you think you are.
Maybe,
I
yeah,
just-
maybe limits
it's
your
just a
options. in the
caution to
future.
that, because you can't put a driveway in that 100 feet between lot 2 and 4,
No,
because it's too close to.
right.
And the reason we had to put that shared driveway 128 feet from the north line is because they have a second driveway on that existing house on the corner. It's just a gravel going into their backyard.
So we had to
that-
go off of that one.
We had to push that over to 28 feet, you know, so that's kind of what changed some of the dimensions. So they have 2 driveways and
They're not supposed to have 2 driveways.
No,
I was gonna say.
they did, and it cost me 28 feet of land going in there, so basically. Cause we would have made the other access a little wider then, and then that would have been no issue on anything, so.
Well, I mean, the accesses you wanna change, now's the time.
We like the way it is, I think, you know, if you guys are happy with it. And we're trying to preserve it, we just wanna have a family farm and, you know. We're gonna be there with our daughters and grandkids for quite a while, so.
Yep.
We did plant 500 pine trees on that north line too, which will be above, in that buffer zone.
Mhm.
It just north of that where that corn was, and then the corn is gone and now that's a hay field. We're trying to eliminate the. You know, the runoff and cornfields are pretty, they're just plowed.
Right.
Bare, you know, we wanted more grass and try to keep the natural, so we're already working on the buffer zones as far as. Cause at one point, there was talk of putting a road through there, you know, if that ever happened, we'd like to have a buffer anyway, so.
hopefully that ship has sailed.
Hopefully. I haven't heard of any rumors of that recently.
That was, we met some of the neighbors and that was what they were talking about.
All right, so the staff recommendation is basically to approve this with the condition that all the staff comments are addressed. And there are a lot of staff comments, but I think we've talked through them all.
One question.
I had one more thought. I was just thinking I remember when I was out there and you explained to me the trees that you've planted, the rows, as you're thinking about that 40% and you think you might be getting, tight on that, you might consider some of that, also adding that into that 40%. If you do plan on using it as a buffer, and then that could be an easement too. And that would just be permanent also then, part of the 40%. So just
Yeah,
something to think about as you're, I don't know what other people think about that, but I just had that thought.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
We are including part of that already in that,
Okay.
I had one other question, and this is a technicality. And I can't remember if it's at this point, but don't we want to have on a CSM, the LBO information? Or is that not until our only on majors?
I feel like I looked this up and we only required it on the majors, but we've been recommending it on the
What's an LBO?
others.
What's the
Lowest buildable opening. It's like
Oh, okay.
basically the height, the height for
The
where.
bottom of your lowest door, in
Okay.
essence.
Yes, to avoid water coming in.
Okay.
Yeah,
that won't be an issue out there.
it's definitely a technical thing, and I just want to make sure that if it's needed, and I think in the past, it wasn't required on minors, and we said we probably should change that. But
That's what I was trying to decide. This is really a major because of the number of lots.
We're also building slab on grade.
No, it's 4 lots.
Yeah.
what's that?
It's 4 lots.
That's 4 lots.
So that's a minor, right?
4 lots or less, it says on the
Yeah.
paperwork.
Yep. It's a little confusing on this one because they listed lot 1 that's not a part of it.
That's what.
Which gets back to, number it from 1, 2, 3, and 4, and that way it's not confusing,
Yeah.
but,
It's 3 new and 1 existing house.
Right.
That's there, yeah.
but you started with yours at number 2.
Right, yeah,
And so we look at this, well, there's a lot 5, that's a major.
right.
Is on page 6. Are the little yellow dots? The number 19 and 18 are those your dots?
Yeah, those are, the building that's an old pole barn, that's like a foot too close to the line. And the other one is 2 feet too close, that's what those dots are. I believe,
Oh, okay.
and those were existing buildings,
And they're gonna remain.
yeah.
It was an odd notation that I don't recall seeing.
Okay, yeah, now I remember having looked this up again. So the lowest building opening, we only require for lots affected by a drainage easement or floodplain.
So
Ah.
this wouldn't be impacted,
This wouldn't be,
Okay.
because there's, at least I didn't see any drainage easements on here,
not in the MS4 or any of those things.
right?
Okay.
Sounds good. I just want to make sure.
Yep, thanks. So I guess next question would be, would you prefer us to make a motion to forward this on to the town board? With the understanding that you would come into the town board meeting with the revisions as required here?
All right, so what we would make the revisions and then when we're ready to submit that, then it would get on the next town board meeting?
Right.
Okay,
So I guess the question is, would you want to do that, or do you want to come back before the plan commission and have us look at the revisions before the board meeting?
I think we should be good to have you recommend it to the board.
Okay.
Can it go to next week and they approve it on the conditions? And then, or do we have to have it done by,
I would say that it probably could. I'm not sure if the board would be very comfortable with approving it, given that there's given that the easements presumably would not yet
Okay.
Yeah, Okay.
available at that point.
So we'll make the changes and resubmit it. And then it would get on the next board meeting after that.
Yeah, what do you think, Lori?
Well. Just a minute, Terry. Are Weber's on our town board agenda meeting next Thursday?
Yeah.
So it's on the agenda,
Oh, it's
but that
already-
does not necessarily mean that it would happen, but you could also. You can see what, do your thing and we'll see you Thursday
Okay.
and it goes the way it goes, or you can just say. Put us on the plan commission meeting next month and put us up and we can go on the town board agenda again next month and you can come back and go through the same thing you just went through tonight. And then go on to the board. So do you want to go to the board next Thursday or you want to go to the town board a month from now?
So if we go to the town board a month from now, we'd still have to come back to the planning commission? Oh, no. Okay.
No.
Okay.
We're just, our next step is the board, right?
So we'll make the changes and
That's what-
resubmit it.
that's what Anton is
Yeah, and I'll
That's fine.
qualify it a little bit. The advantage, I'm gonna give a little pitch for the planning committee. The advantage, yeah, I'm guessing you're not gonna be ready for the board next Thursday.
I don't think so.
So the advantage of coming back to the planning commission next month is we can potentially get you more prepared for the board meeting. And it won't be, we're not gonna do the exact same thing all over again, because, we'll remember what we talked about. It would give you an opportunity to have us potentially provide additional feedback before the board. If you go straight to the board, they may see something and you kick it back to planning commission anyway.
Okay.
So if
Yeah,
you're
I
gonna
mean,
wait till
if-
next month,
If that's what you recommend,
yeah, I don't see a disadvantage other than you're gonna have to spend time coming back to planning commission, but we could potentially save you time by
Okay.
not getting rejected by the board,
okay, Right.
potentially. So,
Unless you're just gonna come to the board for input. With the intention that you're gonna come back to the plan commission and the board a second time.
confused. Oh my God.
So, okay,
We'll
so
set up for the next planning commission and then the following.
So we would have a month till the next planning commission.
Right,
meeting.
yeah.
Okay.
And you can think it over
and that
And then it
also,
would go to the board the
Board.
the week after.
if you, yes,
Okay.
if the plan commission made
Yeah.
pushed you through
Okay.
to the next level,
Okay.
then yes, next month you would
That's fine.
do plan commission
Okay.
and board about a week apart.
We'll
Week
do-
and a
That
day.
makes sense.
In your driveways, you can address the driveway questions to Jay Kimball, you know that already, right?
Yep.
Yeah, we've been talking to him.
Yeah,
Okay.
he's good.
I kind of went over the whole thing before I even did anything, so.
Yeah, Jay's good. He's a good he's an asset for you.
Okay.
so if you want, we can just put you on the next month's planning commission, which is October 4th,
Okay.
and then take our action then.
Sounds good.
Are you okay with that?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay,
All right.
then we
And
don't
then
need.
I have one question. What is the name of our road? We, Anderson, SENSON,
Oh.
Scout Camp Road, Scout Camp Trail. We direct people to our house. They end up at the Scout
Scout.
Camp.
It is Scout Camp Road.
But it's
Except
in
on the
in the
county-
official
county, it's
county
trail.
stuff, it's
Oh, geez.
trail.
Oh, it's Scout Camp Trail.
And our official mailing address is Scout Camp Road, but people spell it SEN and SON. It's very confusing. Is it
Yeah,
EN?
and that's what's
It
on this
is.
now.
But I mean, that's like Anderson, like the Scout Camp is EN, so that makes
Yeah, and
sense.
then-
for fire EMS call, it's, yeah.
Okay.
Trail or road?
It says trail on the St. Croix County map.
So that's the official map.
And it says road on like the
Oh, that's
Wisconsin
that,
map.
the exit sign says Scout Camp Road, so
Oh,
Yeah.
never,
Our
never,
exit sign,
yeah.
we should maybe look into that.
Well,
Oh, you mean like the Wisconsin DOT one says?
Mhm.
64.
Yeah,
River Park,
yeah,
I'm getting off on.
I think it says
Oh,
Scout
from the
Camp
other end,
Road.
yeah,
Yeah.
so that'd be exit 4.
And then our sign at the corner of whatever, the main street, it says,
Creedville Farm and.
it just says Scout Camp Road.
You
So
know, we
I've been
had-
very confused. I
that sounds like a public work.
don't know exactly where I live.
We had people trying to get to our house from the north, east, I guess it is. that was totally lost. And that's what they kept saying.
Yeah.
Google,
Google Maps and like Safari Maps are two different things, so I have to give people it's very confusing.
And we know where we're going, my husband and I, so we never even, we were.
So we've
totally
had,
clueless
like,
Why they didn't get that. but yeah.
Deliveries going and people coming to like pick something up and they end up at the scout camp.
Interesting.
I think it's the firework place there on the corner because all the maps go nuts though the minute you get by that fireworks place.
It's exit 4,
It
yeah.
doesn't
Huh.
matter if it's Safari, yeah, it's four. It doesn't matter if it's Safari or Google.
Well, I'm glad it's not just me.
I was like, why are you asking that question? Now.
And even
I
in
have
the
all that-
staff report, there's an SEN and an SON, so.
We just want to be consistent.
Yeah, right.
Consistently and.
Keep up the.
Heads up, Lee.
Just for clarification, the town roadmap has SON. So,
Yep, well,
Oh,
maybe need to work on that.
yep.
Like,
For this report, maybe Sarah or Amanda can just do a word search and make them all the same.
well, thank you very much.
Thank you. We'll see you next month. Will be October 4th. Thanks for your patience.
Thank you. Amanda.
All right.
That was interesting.
Yeah, Fall Festival update.
Yes.
Yes. So I'll give my update, which is that I'm about halfway done with putting together a sheet to hand out at the Fall Festival. I have a plan commission page done and I'm doing a zoning page to go on the back of it.
Wow.
So, and if anyone has input on things that they think I should mention, feel free to drop me an email or whatever, or
What are you
do right
working
now.
on your 3 pages? You have zoning? And what else?
Well, plan commission, zoning, and that's kind of it right now.
That's enough.
If I think of more, I can put more on.
Get the word out.
Pretty much, yeah. I'm thinking that we really ought to have like all of the committees or commissions have some representative at the Fall Festival next weekend. Well, I guess weekend and a half. And make sure and everybody should be there with whatever information they have. So, you know, I'm figuring we've got our zoning map. The public works people should be hanging out with their road map. Maybe the one that has like the Pacer information on it that's floating around somewhere. And somebody from the board will be there. But if anyone wants to volunteer to hang out there, feel free. Otherwise, I'll be hanging out there the whole time. So. Or almost the whole time. I may have to ferry my kids back home if they get bored.
I think I will be there. But I have to get clarification if I'm locating a camper that morning.
All right. Let's see, review of budget. We have budget. We have budget to review. We have past budget to review. We have future budget to review or think of. Terry, do you want to
I didn't get a budget.
say anything to the budget? No, okay,
I've organized it pretty good for you guys.
yes. We are organized.
Yep. Did the best I could.
Let's see. You have a pen?
It seems simpler than it has in the past.
Thanks. Yes, so, okay.
See how this one looks.
So we can either like take lots of time and do like zero basis budgeting. Or we can work off our budget and actual from last year and to come up with some numbers quick.
Let's see.
Any preferences?
8 months in.
The reimbursable are like fake numbers.
Yeah, I'd say the reimbursable to me, just carry over the numbers that we budgeted last year, cause it, yep, to your point there,
Yeah,
don't really mean
so
anything.
all of these are 10,
Yeah.
10.
Why are our engineer planner fees so low? Compared to our budget and compared to reality? Do we just think that we're going to be paying lots of money to Stan Tech and we're not paying? Or we're
Which line
ending up in
number
a
are you-
different
which
account?
line number are you?
If you look at,
56310,
if you look at 22 actual,
or is that whole thing is reimbursable?
yeah,
Is that whole thing
Look
reimbursable?
Right here.
right. But that's, so the budget for 2023 was probably based off 2022.
Mhm.
Well, they're broken up into planning and zoning.
Yep.
What did you say, Terry?
She said they're broken up into planning and zoning.
That's fussy.
We just haven't,
Breakdown.
I'm just trying to figure out what this engineer planner fees is. Is that like non-reimbursable and is it like a
Where does
percentage?
where does all Amanda's bills go?
Yeah,
Which
Well-
number?
Well, that probably goes into this, reimbursable.
56304 if they're reimbursable,
Yeah.
So that's where you put it, Amanda's?
if they're reimbursable.
If they're reimbursable, yeah.
The stuff that's not would be things like reviewing like we had a review of our zoning ordinance. Which I thought was the spring or over the winter. And I'm just not sure where those
Ordinance
costs are.
Review is down here. Right? Or is that something different?
Yeah, ordinance development is down there. So then I just don't know what engineer planner fees are.
I can go look it up real quick if you want. Oh, yeah,
Well-
do that. I have QuickBooks open.
I don't think that you have to. I'm just not sure if we need to be budgeting $3,000 if we're spending $50 a year on it.
I gotcha.
Which
Anyone-
number, is that 310 or?
That's the
4?
310, yeah. Anyone have objections if I
Oh,
just,
right here.
if I
see
just
what you-
pencil in 1,000 instead of 3,000, since we seem to be spending $40 to $100 a year?
Yeah, I'm gonna
Yeah.
guess that,
well, yeah, because there's only 73 in 2022.
so that's
And we're only at 45, so yeah,
so that's
right.
unreimbursable, other is must be going into a designated category so that we're sure that we collect it, right, Terry?
I'm sorry, what did you say? Say that
On,
again.
on the, engineer 56310,
Mhm.
is that if that's a reimbursable, it-
No, that's
It's
fees.
not a reimbursable. It's not paid.
63,301 is
I have to
reimbursable.
go
That's
look
the
and see what
other.
that is.
yeah, for a $45 bill.
No. Engineer
fees.
planning fees is not reimbursable.
Yeah, so what is it? Right here.
I don't know, but I'm going to assume we're not going to spend more than $1,000 on it.
No, I don't think so
Yeah.
either.
I think that's safe.
Yeah.
I think 500 is.
I was gonna say, I love 500.
I was gonna say, let's just go for 1,000 and.
Because we haven't hit 100 for 2 years in a row.
Well, that,
You could go 1,000 and then next year you can do it.
yeah, I
you
could
can
drop
knock
it
it down
500
again.
next year or 250.
So you can do 2 budgets in one swipe here, so we can put a 2025 notation.
There we
over
go.
here.
Yes. Okay. Administrator expenses. Again, I have no idea why they're so low on zoning,
For administrator expenses.
but the 5,000 kind of matched our 2022 actuals, so.
Yeah, that doesn't make, this
Yeah.
doesn't make sense to me because we know we have administrators.
Yeah.
Fees.
Well, there's also like payroll for Jay, but that's farther down, so.
Oh, yeah, it's down here.
I'm gonna leave that one at 5,000 since we did get up to almost 4,000 in 2022.
The $45 was for publishing the notice of public hearing.
Oh, sure, that makes sense.
All right.
So yeah, I don't think even with all the models, maybe not necessarily.
And the year before, we probably did 2 of them. So it was $73.
Well,
All
yeah,
right.
so if it's $50 a crack at 1,000, we can do
Yeah.
20 of them and we're still way good.
Yeah, hopefully we're not doing 1 a month or 2 a month.
Okay. Also this budget stuff that we're talking about right now, Chris is now in the Google Drive if you want to look.
The spreadsheet.
Budget and actual spreadsheet. Okay, let's see.
We didn't have any road deposit forfeitures. occupants, refunding to occupancy, it seems like we had more than 7,000.
But those are.
Oh,
those are,
occupancy and road deposits are two different. I was thinking road,
Oh,
so
yeah.
road deposits, we might.
but those are both reimbursables anyway, right? Yep. So. And we probably shouldn't be budgeting for forfeitures.
Nope, I wouldn't think so.
I assume
That's
they're not
why it's
common.
blank, that's probably why you blanked it out, right?
Yep.
For us, so we didn't need to think about it.
Payroll, I think can just all stay where it is.
What was I think it was Justin mentioned. I think Justin mentioned something that needed to be reviewed. Would there be any costs in
The
that?
ordinance review.
Yeah. That we
Yeah,
would
when
incur?
we get to,
Yeah, because that's the last one.
ordinance
Oh,
development.
here, yeah, it's at the bottom. Okay.
And I think tonight it was a pretty good example of, as we work through it, we're going to run into these, it's just the way it is, and when we find them, we have to fix them.
I agree.
So we're gonna need money, and it looks like,
Well, and I'm looking at this, so we budgeted 5,000. So far, actual this year is
7.
6,700, yeah, basically 7. But 2022 was under 3, so why is this year so much more than 2022?
because our 2022, you had just finished doing your major and all the other stuff. So where does publication of ordinances come in, Terry?
This was the
Or
zoning.
not
revision. We
publication,
did
where
zoning
does
revision
E-code come in?
this spring.
That one comes in.
Because I'm trying to figure out if that's an upward trend that we should budget like 10, or if
That's what
it
I-
should be 5 next year, because this year we had an anomaly. That's what I was just trying to understand.
No, I'm with you, it should be 10
Yeah,
or more, but 10 is a good number. Because you figure
Yep.
you're at 7 grand as of 9 months.
Yep.
So you have 10, 11, you have 3 months left to go. You're gonna be topping 10, you could be pushing 9, 10.
Yeah.
Between 9 and 10 at the end of the year.
Well, also the last couple years, we've tasked ourselves with reviewing ordinances, just kind of making sure we've been, particularly 2020, 21, 22, and 23, we've been reviewing. We've gotten a lot of them up to date, but we also had time. We spent a lot of time on a lighting ordinance, right? Well, but they didn't look at that. But then didn't we have them look at a nuisance ordinance too? But anyway, I thought that, are we going to continue to do that next year? There's more of a pause on it next year because we've gone through them now. I'm not sure, Anton, what you have on the docket of what we have left to do.
And Terry, when you publish them to E-code and we're doing the resolutions that are put in there, and the town board we're doing corrections to get them in there, so where is that? Where does that come in on this? Is it a part of this budget is my question. For publication of E-code.
I have to go look at where she puts that under.
I don't know if that winds up under plan commission budget or if that winds up like under
Clerk's budget.
clerk budget, yeah.
Either way, I know that you put, anytime we find something that we want to correct in those ordinances, you've got your expense. It has to be. It's just the nature of the beast.
Yeah, I'm just trying to get a handle on if this was an abnormally high year, or if it's just the
I think that's our new
beginning of a
normal.
normal trend,
It's probably the beginning of a normal,
the normal trend.
at least
So,
for the next year or two, if we do go through and look through all of our ordinances and refresh them.
And I would say if I think that we should expect that we should always, our ordinances should be living documents, so we
Yeah,
always should be looking.
Yeah, we probably should look at trying to go through all of them in the course of the next, say, 12 to 24 months. But then we should, like we do with roads, where we refresh the roads every 10 years or whatever, we should probably set a schedule and say every ordinance gets at least examined on, every 5 years.
sure,
or something.
have a schedule for every single ordinance, so we
And I-
Yeah, we're not trying to guess that makes sense.
And I think as you go along, because you work with so many different peoples and circumstances and you have a lot of variables, I think you have to expect that your ordinances could need updating. And it just, as that happens, you can't put them on the shelf and say, well, we're gonna catch that the next time we work on the ordinance. No, you need, in order to keep it
Right.
current, it just becomes the new task and you publish it and then you're done with it.
Address it at the time. Or
So we
start the
don't,
process.
so we don't have the situation like we did with the pools where we have to go back and update them again.
Sounds good.
Committee member payroll. For whatever reason, this says that we paid $1,400 out in 2022, even though we budgeted. And we budgeted 4,000 for this year, but we've only paid 1,000 out
How often do you get paid?
quarterly, I think.
Yeah.
So this number should reflect half, but maybe it only reflects a quarter.
Well, even still,
Terry, question.
that's,
On yours. Goes under this. Ordinance development and maintenance.
All right, there
That's
is
where,
there is
that's-
a separate ordinance development and maintenance category, which is under.
What's that
what's the number?
51310.
not even close then.
Oh, that's for 5131.
That's expense,
Oh.
just general expense. Is that the clerk's
yeah.
office?
We don't even have that on our. That's outside of our purview, apparently.
It's under legal.
It's probably legal. It's either legal or
Under legal.
Yeah. Oh,
getting better at this. Only took 10 years.
I'm gonna.
Mr. Chair, I'm gonna sign off.
Yes, thank you. Sorry.
thanks, Lee.
Good
Yep,
night.
no problem. Have a good evening.
Thanks, you too.
Under general government.
General government.
General government. Yeah. That does seem like a big category. Because it covers so many different things that we would- There it is.
Yep.
Thanks. Thank you.
Sure. Great. Updates from county. Have we heard anything interesting from the county?
I think. No, I haven't heard anything.
All right.
I had to think for a minute if it was counting.
Ellen retired.
Ellen retired. And the new person came out of Polk County.
Okay.
Yeah.
Updates on complaints. No
That's
updates.
part, that the complaints unless, that'll be the town, that's the typical ones that they've been working on, right? You know,
Yep.
right along.
Yeah, I may just drop that off our standing items. I'm not sure that we're,
I think that that's a fair thing to do.
Yeah.
I think it's appropriate thing to do because you don't have any word on it. It's just information.
yep. Okay, so our recommendations to the town board, we've got the approval of the
I do have. just a minute.
CUP. Yep,
Terry, on the updates from the county that does pertain to us.
Mhm.
It used to be there was a matrix and if we maybe don't have as many now that we're out of that big chunk of town, county zoning, but there used to be a matrix. Do we still get that every month? Whether, do we get it whether St. Joe has anything or not?
Yes.
That's where the updates from the county would come, so it might be just easier to automatically put that document when it comes in, and that way, if we are on it, we don't miss it.
Yep, I put it in there.
If you could.
thanks.
Because that's the only place where we would have updates, other than if we hear like a notice where
Or if we,
staff
if
change.
we've got
that
zoning or
affects us.
something where they've got approval in progress, yeah.
There's the big water issue that's going on that, I don't know if maybe Terry could just, as an FYI, send that one. There's a meeting the end of September. You just forwarded it to us board members. And after I read it, it said it would be of interest to plan commission people. It's on water protection.
Okay,
might be one worth that if you have the time that you could attend it. It's being held in Star Prairie.
All right. That
And I
would
don't
be
think
good.
it required free signing up or a fee.
Thanks. Okay, so I guess our only recommendations to the town board was on the conditional use permit. The other was concept review and the other is coming back next month.
Yeah, it sounds like Weber's are coming back.
Yep. So for our next agenda, let's see, we've got ordinances, schedule review.
Here's your budget. Anton's.
Weber. Wolves. Not. Yep, yeah. So they think. Mhm. Yep, for the town board agenda, just the conditional use permit. Well, actually, I guess the concept review is also going to the board too, I think. For Vader. And Weber's already on there, but yeah, I think so. Oh. All right, I think I'll take a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn.
I'll second that. We stand adjourned. Thanks, Chris, for hanging out
Yeah, thank you. It's good being, thanks, everyone.
and for running things last month more efficiently than I ran this one.
It
I'll
went
try to do
good.
better next month.
Thanks, everybody. Take care.
Thanks, thanks.
Bye.
And- Ordinance review. The board has asked that we go through and review existing ordinances.